Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to use the swatches panel in Adobe Illustrator. This is a beginner tutorial that's explaining the very basics of the swatches panel so that you understand how the panel works so that you can get started on creating your artwork. So let's get started. So I've just created a new file and I already gave it a title. So when you make your file, just make sure that your file says RGB mode, not CMYK, and I'll tell you why in a minute. If you don't see the swatches panel, go up to Window, Swatches, and that opens up the swatches panel, which is what you see right here. It's going to open up a default panel, and you're not constricted to only using the colors in this panel. We're going to go over how to get new colors and how to make your own colors and how to navigate through this panel that you see here. So the first thing that I want to do is click on this black drop down arrow right here. And you're going to see all of these choices, starting with new swatch, new color group, duplicate swatch. The first thing that I want to do is change the view. So let's talk about the view here. If you click on small thumbnail view, you're going to get these really tiny boxes here. You can also do medium view, which is how it came up in the beginning, and large thumbnail view, which is my preferred view because I can see my swatches a lot better this way. So they also have an option to look at it in small list view, which looks like this, and you can just scroll up and down. I don't usually use it this way, but you certainly can if that's what you prefer. This is just all about preference. They also have a large list view as well. You can expand this panel by dragging, by hovering your mouse over the bottom corner here. And you can expand it down and up, and you can also make it skinnier or wider. So let's just leave it like this, but I'm going back to my preferred view, which is large thumbnail view. So if you hover over these colors, what you're going to see is this swatch here says none, which means that there's no fill here. So if you want an object to have no fill, this is what you're gonna click on so that it has no fill. Registration we'll talk about in another video. And here you have your basic white, your basic black. And if you hover over these other colors, you'll see they all say RGB red, RGB yellow, RGB green. That's because you're in the RGB panel right now. Like I said, you don't have to be in this panel if you don't want to. I prefer this panel because RGB colors look much brighter than CMYK colors. And I'm not going to get too in depth about this, but the difference really is that RGB is for screen and CMYK is for printing. But for fashion design, I always just stick to RGB because I like my colors to just look more vibrant and there's no technical requirement for it. So let's just start out by making a square with my rectangle tool here. Select your square and make sure that the fill color is in front of the stroke color because we want to change the fill color. So what you're going to do is just click on any color to change the color. Right now the fill is white, so we're going to just click on the red and you see it changes to red. We click on the yellow and the fill changes to yellow. We click on the green and it changes to green. So you get the idea. If you put the stroke in front, and let's just make a thicker stroke just so that you can see this better. The stroke is currently black, but if I go and make it this blue color, it's going to change to that blue color. So all you have to do is just basically select your object, whatever your object is, doesn't have to be a square, and you're going to just click on the color that you want to select for that. So let's go back to our original square. And I've gone ahead and added some of my own colors and patterns to the panel just to show you. So you can change the fill of your solid colors as I'm doing right now. You can copy objects over and create multiple colorways, which is something that we do a lot in fashion design. And of course in graphics as well. But you can do more than just use solid color. You can also fill your objects with patterns. And you can also fill your artwork with gradients, which can make your artwork really interesting. So we have a pastel gradient, we have a two-tone gradient, we have another two-tone color gradient with a stronger color, and we have a really colorful gradient. And in addition to these colorful gradients, we can also use metallic gradients, like this metallic gold, which I use a lot for fashion design. It comes really in handy when I'm doing metal trims like buttons or zippers. There are also radial gradients available also, which can be good for buttons, but we'll go back to our colorful metallic here. So you have a lot of options when it comes to using your swatches panel. So let's explore the panel a bit more. So let's talk about how to make a new swatch, meaning a brand new color of our own that does not exist in this swatches panel. Let's say that I want to make a peach color, but I don't see a peach color up here in my swatches panel. So what I'll do is I'll start with any color that comes the closest to what I'm thinking of. So here I'm selecting the orange color. And in order to make it peach, what I will do is double click on this fill box here in your toolbar. And when I double click, you'll get the color picker. So you can move this around if it's overlapping with your object. You'll see that there's a circle, and here you can move and click around on this box here until you get the color that you're trying to achieve. Now there are different ways to play with this. You can click around and try to get the color, or you can slide this slider up and down. As you see, it gives you a wide variety of colors here. So like I said, I'm trying to do peach. So I want to go in a little bit more reddish direction, and then I want to go a bit lighter. So this looks more like what I'm trying to do. So there I have my peach color. And if I want to add this peach color to my swatches panel so that I can use it on other objects later and get this same exact peach color, I will just click down on the black arrow for the drop-down menu, and I'll hit New Swatch. So let's just name our new color. We're gonna keep process color. You can do spot color, but we're keeping process right now. And we are going to make this a global color, which means that once you create this swatch, anytime that you edit the actual swatch, all of the artwork on your board that is in that color will change to the new color that you just changed it to. And I'll show you how to do that because I know that it sounds confusing right now. And we'll keep RGB mode, but here you can change it to grayscale or HSB or CMYK if you have decided to do that now, but I'm just going to keep RGB and click OK. And there you have your new swatch here. Now this white triangle that you see in the corner here indicates that it is a global color. So what that means, and just to show you an example of that, is let's just copy this object over, and I'm going to make another object that is not in this color. So if I now double click on this new swatch that I made, and if it's a global color, which it is, I'm going to double click on that, and now I'm going to say, well, I want this peach to actually be a little bit different. Let me play with it. We're going to click our preview box here so that we can see what we're doing. And you can see the color changing over in your swatches panel. Now I've made the peach a bit more reddish, more like a coral color, like a pinky coral color. So as you can see, the preview shows you how the peach changed to coral in the swatches panel, and also everything that was on your board that was in that color changes at the same time. If we unclick preview, we see what the original color was, but we're clicking back, and let's say that I like this color, and you click OK, and you've now changed everything that was the peach, you've changed it to coral now. And you can change the color name now also. Now, you may or may not want to use global color. You may not want everything on your board to change to that color. So if you don't want global color, let's make another new color here. So I'm using this color now and creating my own color. New swatch, and I'll just show you what happens if you do not click global. So you're still making your new swatch. I'm just going to click OK, and you'll see that that new swatch went in here. And copying the object, and when I double click on the swatch to change it to another color, you'll see that it changes in the swatches panel, but it does not change what's on the board currently. If I want to change what's on the board to that new color, I have to select the object and click on the new color. And this is good to have if you are not intending to change every single thing that's in that color to the new color. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. So let's just go down the line here of the choices that you have in the swatches panel menu. Next is new color group, but we're going to skip over that because I want to show you that in depth a little later on. Let's go over the more simple options that you have here. So if you want to take a swatch and duplicate it, you just click on the swatch that you want to duplicate and hit duplicate swatch. So you'll see that this blue that I had here, I duplicated it and it created the same exact blue over here on the end of the swatches panel. The reason that I would use duplicate swatch is if I want to make a blue color that is similar to this but not exactly, I would duplicate the swatch first, then I would double click on it and go back into my swatch options and change that color slightly so that I get the blue that I actually want. And I've made that more like a blue-green color, but still based off of the original blue, and I click OK. So now I can compare the two. The original blue is this one, and my new blue is this one right here. So that's why I would use duplicate swatch. Then let's say that I made that new color, but I don't want it anymore. So I'm gonna just click on it and click delete swatch, and it will ask you yes or no to make sure that you really want to delete it. So you click yes, and the swatch is gone. Now let's say that I've used several colors here from my swatches panel, and this is all of my artwork. So now that I have all of the colors that I want on my board, let's say that I don't want my swatches panel to be all cluttered up like this. So if I want to get rid of the swatches that I haven't used, I can click on select all unused, and you'll see that it will highlight all of the colors that I didn't use. So this red here is not highlighted because I'm using it right here. So if I want to get rid of all those colors, now that they're selected, I can just simply drag them down to this trash bin here, and they're gone. And now I only have on my board the colors that I've used. And you still see these gradients and patterns here because I still have them on another layer here. So they're still within my file. So it's going to get rid of all the colors that you totally haven't used, but if you have them on a hidden layer or anything, they're still going to be there. Now the next option is add used colors. If I want to add back all of the colors that I've used, I'll click on add used colors, and you'll see that all of the colors are in here. So now let's move on to the next option. Here we have sort by name, sort by kind, show find field. So let's do sort by name. And this is just going to sort your swatches into alphabetical order. So you see we're starting here with black, blue steel, blue strike, and some of these colors don't have color names, they have numbers, so it will go in numerical order here. You can also sort by kind, which is going to give you basically your RGB colors all together, and then it'll move on to your gradients all together, and then it'll just put your pattern swatches all together. And then you have show find field, which is basically like a search bar. So let's say that you have a lot of swatches in here and you don't know where your black color is, so you'll type black and hit enter, and it's going to select the black. You see it selected it here. And then let's say that you want to search for your gold radial, type that in, and it selects that, but you would have to know the actual color name. So we've already looked at the different views. So let's just go back to the way that it was originally sorted. And if you want to get rid of the find field, just uncheck it. So next is Swatch Options. And this is exactly the same thing that I showed you before when I showed you to double click on the swatch so that you can have the option of changing the color name or the color type or the color itself. Instead of double clicking on the color, you can also change it by clicking on it and going into your menu, and this is just another way to find that same Swatch Options box. And the next thing that I want to show you is Open Swatch Library. Now once you click on this, you'll see that there is a long list right here, and this is actually a bunch of built-in color libraries that Illustrator comes with. So if we click on one of them, let's say this art history right here, it even has a sub options menu. You can go into art history, ancient, baroque, impressionism. You have celebration. You can play with these. You can go into them and explore them. Here they have a bright color palette, default swatches, which are your basic CMYK or your basic RGB, which is actually what we're using right now. You have earth tones. You have foods. So if you go to sweets, this is what they call the sweets palette. You have metal. These would be metal colors. You have gradients here, and there are a lot of sub options here for the gradients. So you have like your bright gradients. You have color harmonies. And the gradients that I use the most are the metals, like I mentioned before. These are great for metallic trims on garments, and they have them as a regular gradient or as a radial, which means like a circular gradient. And there are also patterns built in here too, like basic graphics like dots, or decorative like geometric. And I showed you some of these before. This is Illustrator's textile panel. So you can play with these colors. And when you open these built-in menus from Illustrator, they come out as their own panel like this. So they can get to be quite a lot. As you can see, I have so many of them open right now. So you can X out of this if you want. There are also color books like Pantone colors here. So let's say that you want to use Pantone solid matte colors. You could select that and you'll see that all of these colors are built into Illustrator and you can use them. And the Pantone colors have this white triangle on the corner, but unlike the global colors that I showed you before, the Pantone colors actually have a black dot here, which indicates that it is a Pantone color. So let's say that you open up this bright palette and you like this particular color, and you choose a few colors that you're going to use from the bright palette, but you don't want to keep this bright palette open. So let's just pick the colors that we want to use from it. And these are all the colors that I want to use. What you can do is select the swatch and drag it into your swatches panel. And then you can close out of that palette. Now, another thing that you can do is create a color group. And like I said before, we were going to go back to this. So here at the top, the second option is new color group. And this is something that I like to use a lot. So let's say that I didn't add these new swatches in one by one, but I actually want to add them in as a new group. So a group is basically a folder so that you can organize certain colors that you're wanting to group together, that you don't want them just floating around mixed up with all the other colors. I know that these colors here at the top are my default swatches that opened when I opened Illustrator. Here are the gradients that I added in and the patterns that I added in. These are also some new colors that I used when I was doing the tutorial right now. And Illustrator will always have a folder with gray tones already built in here, which are already in a color group or in a folder. So I'm going to first create a color group using those colors that I had chosen from the Brights palette. So instead of adding them in one by one from the palette, I can actually just add them into my swatches panel as their own group so that I know that they're separate from these default colors that are here. What I'll do is just take the black arrow and drag over these colors to select all 3 of them. And I'll go up here and click on new color group. And I can name this group. So let's just call it brights because it came from the brights panel. So I'm renaming it brights, and I have selected artwork selected, and I can make them global colors if I want to, but like I showed you before, you may or may not want to use this option, and I do usually have include swatches for tints checked. So I'll click OK. And as you can see, a new folder was created with only these 3 colors. So now here you'll see that I have some new colors that I had added in before, and I want to keep those new colors, but I want to separate them out from the default colors that I had originally. So I'm going to make a new color group with them. So I'll click on the first color that I want to select, and then I can hold Shift on my keyboard and select the last color that I want to select, and you'll see that it selected all of these colors here. So then I'll go up to new color group, and I'll title it additional colors, and that just created a group with only these new colors that I used. So now it's a little more organized because they're separate from the previous default colors that I had. So now let's talk about this new color group that I just made. And so let's say that I have multiple objects on my page using some of these colors. So let's say that I don't want to have all of these yellows in my artwork, and I don't need to have 2 different orangey colors here. So I can merge my swatches and fix that problem. So what I can do is these yellows look almost exactly the same. So I can merge these swatches. I can select both of them and do merge swatches. And that's going to ensure that I only have this one yellow on my page. Then if I want to take these 2 orangey, rusty colors, and I want to just pick one to have within my artwork, I'm going to first select the one that I want to keep. So I want to keep this darker one. And then I'm going to hold Shift and select the one that I don't want to keep. And then I'll do merge swatches. And you see what happened here? Here, I only have the darker color left, but also on my artwork, you'll see that all of the light orange colors changed to the darker one. So it actually merged the colors, not just in the swatches panel, but also in the artwork itself. Now you can also ungroup a color group, and that's just going to bring it back and mix it in with the default colors and patterns that you had. But let's just undo that. Now let's talk about how to save your own colors in your own swatch library. But you'll have to join me on part 2 of this video, how to create color palettes in Adobe Illustrator. This video will show you how to create your own color palettes, swatch libraries, and how we apply all of this professionally. Click on the link to watch it. You don't want to miss it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. I'm happy to answer any questions that you leave me in the comments below. Thanks guys, see you on part 2.